Chronic coughs. So chronic coughs in children are often made worse by their diets and or do not improve because of a faulty diet. The spleen, because it's the root of digestion, so when it's impaired by the food we are eating, it then creates phlegm accumulation because it's not working properly. So you can just imagine if food isn't transforming and transporting, things start to build up in the body and it creates this extra dampness or fluid or phlegm. And there's a TCM saying that the earth element creates damp and the metal element stores it. So in this case, the earth element is the spleen and the metal element is the lung. And so that is the first place for the phlegm to go, is into the lungs, which will then create issues like a cough. So this is so easily seen in children. The spleen is a source of phlegm production and the lungs not being able to deal with this excess phlegm. This is very common. It is seen all the time. And the fact for this to develop into a cough is very common. You will often hear parents say, "Oh, my child's not sick. It's okay. They just have this cough. I just can't seem to get rid of it." And you'll hear that a lot from parents because they don't understand this connection of what their child is eating, creating difficulties for the spleen and then creating this excess mucus. So as I said earlier, you can see this directly after parties, birthday parties, or after Halloween, where a child has just eaten too much sugar, placed a huge burden on the spleen, and then there's this extra mucus that forms immediately afterwards. Children are so quick, these things happen overnight. The lungs are delicate organs to begin with, and especially so in children because they are still immature. And so this is why they will easily develop a cough if there's this excess phlegm production that is being stored there. An acute cough, due to an exterior condition, as we talked about in the previous section, should resolve on its own within a few weeks with proper rest, diet, and time, and with some of the dietary therapy we talked about in that section. A chronic cough, though, may be continuous, and there may be repeated attacks, just as if a child seems to catch all the infections that are going around, which then turn into a cough. This is what it might seem like when really it's connected to their diet. The cough can also come when the child is run down, and especially if this is due to a deficiency cough. Their spleen is deficient, you get tired and they run down, and then it's not able to keep up with the transforming, and then the phlegm is produced. So for dietary therapy differentiation, we can just determine whether the phlegm accumulation in the lungs is hot or it's cold, whether it's due to the accumulation disorder that we talked about earlier, and then this is causing phlegm accumulation, or whether the cause is due to a lung and spleen qi deficiency. So if it is due to phlegm, we will see phlegm, we will hear phlegm, it will be in the lungs, there'll be some rough breathing, some violent coughing, and they will probably be coughing up lots and lots of phlegm. So with heat signs, the phlegm will be more of a yellow color. It will be difficult to expectorate. It will be hard to get up. They may have some other heat signs as well, such as the red lips, the thirst, and the flushed complexion. So with the lung and spleen qi deficiency cough, the cough will just contain really thin white sputum. There won't be as much mucus, and they might be short of breath as well. Okay, so if the cough is due to phlegm, some of the dietary therapy that we can utilize for that, again, if it's accumulation disorder creating the phlegm, we know the signs of accumulation disorder with the red cheeks and the distended abdomen and the irritability and the restlessness. So in that case, the root would be taking care of the accumulation disorder, and we can refer back to the section on the dietary principles to do with accumulation disorder. If the phlegm is there due to overeating foods that are phlegm and damp producing, these really need to be eliminated for any benefit to occur. So the spleen needs to regain its strength and to prevent it from creating more phlegm. So until there is no phlegm, there is absolutely no cold and refrigerated foods. Let foods warm up. So even if the child wants to have a little bit of yogurt, take it out of the fridge, 15 or 20 minutes, let it warm up to room temperature before serving it to them. No ice cream, no raw vegetables, except in this case, some radishes. Fruit juice, pizza, greasy, deep fried foods, none of that. No tropical fruits, no peanut butter, no tomato sauce, no excess sugar, no dairy, wheat, eggs, or an excess of nuts. I know it seems like a lot, but it's just for a short time until the phlegm has cleared, none, and then you can introduce a little bit as the spleen gets some strength back. You also want to make sure that there's not overeating occurring that's burdening the spleen, creating too much work for it. So watching for too many snacks and eating too much foods throughout the day. So the diet here with phlegm should consist of warming bland foods until the cough has resolved and the phlegm has cleared. Ginger is really good for coughs due to phlegm, as it helps to transform phlegm. Because it's nourishing the spleen and stomach, the root cause, it's also going into the lungs where it's transforming phlegm. It enters the lungs, the spleen, and the stomach. So this is a good one for this condition. Thyme is also really good as it's warming and it's pungent, and it helps to warm the lungs and help to reduce a lot of the congestion that's built up in there. Turnips are actually really good in this case as they have a bitter quality and a little bit of cool property, and they're pungent. So they help to resolve the phlegm and help to stop cough. Citrus peel or citrus zest is also really good. So you can use the zest of an orange or a lemon, and just always making sure that if you are using the zest of any of the fruits, that they are organic, just because they are heavily sprayed, and so you don't want to be adding that and giving that to your child. So with citrus peel, you can take the peel anytime you're eating an orange or a tangerine or a mandarin, as long as it's organic. And once you peel it, you just chop it up and let it dry, and then you have it on hand if any of these conditions do show up. If you don't have any dried citrus peel ready to go, you can just use the zest and it will still be effective because it transforms phlegm and it helps to dry dampness, and it's very, very, very useful when there's profuse phlegm. If the phlegm in the lungs is a hot phlegm, if it's phlegm heat, then this cough will be more of a barking, loud cough with sticky or yellow mucus that's really difficult to get out. And so in this case, if there's heat signs, you'll want to use all of the above mentioned dietary therapy, but you also want to include foods that will help to clear some of that heat that's built up in the lungs. So pears are really good for this. They clear heat, they go to the lungs, and they also help to transform the phlegm. Elderberries are wonderful. They're bitter and they're sweet and they're cooling, and they're usually easy to get in syrup form, or you can make your own syrup, as I have a recipe for that later on. Elderberries also clear phlegm and they help to clear mucus. Radishes are also good for this. They're pungent, sweet, and cooling, and they enter into the lungs and stomach. They transform really thick mucus conditions. They help to descend qi. So here we have, instead of the stomach qi going up, we have the lung qi going up. So radishes are good at bringing that lung qi back down. Plus, radishes also help to eliminate toxins. Peppermint is another good one here, the bohe. It's pungent and cooling and goes to the lung and liver to loosen phlegm. If the cough is due to lung and spleen qi deficiency, which that cough was with a thin white sputum, they might have a poor appetite, they might easily catch colds, they might be easily fatigued, and the cough can sometimes get worse in these children as soon as they increase their activity. So you will need to, of course, nourish their spleen and stomach through dietary therapy. And you can also include almonds for these children. Almonds have a neutral thermal nature. They really benefit the lungs, and they are good for treating a deficiency cough. You can also drink almond milk, but just keep in mind that there are certain brands that are very high in sugar with almond milk. Carrots, cooked carrots, are really good in this case. They have a neutral thermal nature. They nourish the body and the qi, and especially the spleen and stomach. They enter the lungs, the liver, and the spleen, and carrots also help to descend the qi, the lung qi, and they help with coughs. Grapes are really good for nourishing a lung deficiency cough as well. And they enter the lungs, spleen, and kidney, and they have a neutral thermal nature. And so just to recap, if the phlegm accumulation in the lungs We need to decide whether it's hot or cold, and we need to make sure we are eliminating all the foods that is creating this phlegm, and then we need to also utilize foods to help to drain the phlegm at the same time. We also need to see, is it accumulation disorder causing this phlegm production because of the burden on the spleen? And we also just need to find out, is it a deficiency syndrome, and is it a lung and spleen qi deficiency that requires nourishing and tonifying?